And welcome back. Happy New Year, 2023. First episode of the new year. This is actually episode number 8, and a long anticipated episode as we host Mayor John McCann, the newly elected mayor of Chula Vista. Before we get into that, let me just say thank you to the sponsors, because these programs don't happen easily or for free. So I want to thank our sponsors, CopyLink, Kevin and Kimberly Marshall, celebrating 30 years as your trusted source for office technology and managed service. So if you don't know Kimberly and Kevin and Marshall, I don't know what to say, because everybody does, but they are the kindest people, the greatest people, and they have one of the best businesses, I think, that supports Chula Vista. That's CopyLink, celebrating 30 years. So let's get right to it. We are out of the gates running in a new year with a new administration and a continuing strong vision for our city of Chula Vista. So let's just get started. As you know, Mayor John McCann, a longtime public servant figure in Chula Vista, and well-deserved election. And I know there's a lot of people excited that you are in the leadership position. So let's talk about some of the stuff that's on the plate that's coming forward for Chula Vista. And let's start off with the hot topic that everyone's always talking about, and that's public safety. So how are things going, and how are things looking for the city of Chula Vista as far as public safety?
Well, Michael, first I wanted to thank you. Wanted to thank the Marshalls IQ podcasts for helping host this as well. Just everything's going incredibly well, and just excited to be the mayor of the city of Chula Vista, my hometown. And when I was a kid, we're about 60,000 people. Now we're pushing 300,000, and been very honored to be part of the team and being able to hopefully manage that growth well, and designing those outstanding award-winning new communities and helping with the redevelopment on the West.
Yeah, that's when you look at the talent that put all these new programs together, who were part of it over the span of the last 16 years or more, you and maybe Glenn Googans, in a close second to you, have been the two pillars in this, the constant. So it's nice to see that as you come into mayor, nothing is a surprise to you. Nothing is new for you, because you've been a part of most of the major projects that are coming forward now. So it just lends to the fact that we're just going to keep the stride going. So let's talk about public safety. Let's talk about fire. Let's talk about police. And then we're going to start talking a bit more about the city itself and affordable living.
Great. Public safety is the number one priority for us. We have been very blessed to have a great police chief and a great police force. And over the several years that I've been on the council, we've gone to be able to grow and to become one of the safest cities in the San Diego County. We were number one for about a year, but we dropped back down to number 2 because Coronado obviously has a great safety record, and we appreciate them. But we're still striving to do the best we can. And we are one of the safest communities in San Diego County. My goal as mayor is to have a 1 per capita, 1 officer per 1,000 residents. We're on our way there. The challenge is after the negative press and the defund our police movement, many people don't want to become police officers anymore. So we are out really trying to do as much as we can to be able to bring in new officers, people of character, people who care about the community, to become police officers, as well as any lateral assignments. We're looking to do that. Our chief is just incredible, Roxana Kennedy, and she always has a great phrase that we all use, the heart behind the badge. And our police officers really care about the community and has done a tremendous job in keeping the city safe. As a council member, I moved to hire additional police officers. I was a council member in the early 2000s. We made sure that they were one of the highest paid departments in the county. When I left, we had built up our officer cadre to very good. I left to go to fight in the war in Iraq. When I got back and back on the council in 2014, we had slipped to under 200 officers. Now we're on our way back, and we're looking at 270 now. Think again, we need to hire as many as possible to get to that one per capita mark. But the reality is that we have positions open, and we have to pick qualified, good people, and there's not as many people who are interested in being as a police officer as there used to be.
You know, it's during that time when you were gone, and there was, of course, the city was, and that was with Chief Bejarano, who actually had to have the hard conversation with many officers about letting them go. And I know it broke his heart. He and I talked about that. It was a very sad time in his time as chief, but it also put the city in a stress test. And sometimes you never know how great of a city you have until it's gone through something like that. And even within the time frame of having to do that, Chula Vista never never slipped out of third place. For a matter of fact, during that, it was recognized as one of the safest cities in America with a population over 200,000. And the only city in California that had a equal or smaller police force than Chula Vista was Irvine. And they were not in their top ranked safest cities. So that speaks volumes to the tenacity, the courage, the willingness to have to make change, but also to the community. And then, of course, the baton was handed off to Chief Kennedy, and she's done great things with that. But I just want to keep pointing out that situation is just one of many situations that shows how great Chula Vista is, that we can weather the storm, we can right the ship, we can learn from the past, and we can make things better. And of course, through the propositions that also helped us build our police force and the selections of good officers. And if you want to know more about that, go back to our podcast with Chief Kennedy, and she'll explain that to you. I don't want to take your time talking about it, but there's a very, very strong desire to hire, but not just anybody. We still want quality law enforcement officers. So quality, not quantity. So let's talk about fire.
Yeah. Again, I think we have one of the best fire departments in the state of California. I've been very honored and blessed to make sure that not only do we hire new officers, but we are also able to make sure that they have the equipment, the apparatus, and I've been instrumental in making sure that we buy new fire trucks, make sure that their equipment is state of the art, and that we get it to them on time. Also, I've been very honored. We have 10 fire stations in the city of Chula Vista, and I've been very blessed to be able to help fund 6 out of the 10. And then we have 2 additional fire stations coming up, one in Otay Ranch that we're looking on building. We're in the process right now. And then a fire station on the Bayfront to be able to support our incredible Bayfront projects that will give public access and new hotels on the Bayfront, with Gaylord being a $1.2 billion project. But we need to make sure we have a fire station there to be able to support that, especially with high-rise ladders and things like that. So I'm just very blessed. In the early 2000s, I have an interesting story about in the city, county, the city of Chula Vista was the only fire station without paramedics on their fire engines. And that was one of the things that I wanted to make sure that we were able to accomplish. I went ahead and we got the vote on it right before I left to fight the war in Iraq as a naval officer. And we were able to get that passed because of so many different issues on training and funding issues. I was off the council, and 2013, I unfortunately was in a bad car accident. I got T-boned by a guy going 87 miles per hour. I was very lucky to survive that. But my call was the first call with a paramedic on board. And it's just one of those things where it was a blessing to be able to have the paramedic there. I think that decision, although I had not planned it, had potentially saved my life. And uh, I was very, very fortunate to be able to do that. I know one of the firefighter drivers who was driving the engine said, going on the scene, saw my white Saturn and said, "Oh, that guy is dead in the white Saturn."
Oh,
And then
boy.
he figured out, "Oh, that's John
Yeah.
McCann." Obviously, if whoever it would have been, when it would have gone to try to save their life, they used the jaws of life, got me out of there. Luckily, they were able to revive me. I was in the ICU for a little more than a week. I was in inpatient ICU for a long time at the hospital, then rehab, and luckily I was able to survive, so I could get back on the city council, and just very, very blessed to be able to do that. So I personally know how important it is to be able to have good quality public safety, including the fire department.
And now they have one of the most successful emergency service ambulance service too. So that's, again, that's just big kudos to the city council, to you and everybody else who saw that opportunity and gave Chief Munns, and he talks about that too on a podcast. So check out previous podcasts, because Chief Munns for the Chula Vista Fire Department goes into a deep dive about the solvency and the cost savings that their ambulance service provides. So with that addition, what with the Bayfront, we've got Gaylord. You talked a little bit about some of the new construction. As far as city initiatives, what's new coming before city council that maybe some of our viewers have not heard about? What's kind of steaming in the pot?
I think there are a couple really exciting things that are coming to Chula Vista, and we've talked about the Gaylord project, a $1.2 billion project on the Bayfront. We've talked about Amara Bay,
Mhm.
which are going to be it's another $1 billion project that is going to bring housing down on J Street next to the bay. We also have the Bay View project by Mountain West and Kevin O'Neill. And it's funny because I always tease them about that, because it's not $1 billion project; it's just 900 million. So
So in addition to that, we have, and we've already started with this University Village. So let's talk about some of the groundbreaking opportunities that have come to play in the last 90 days with that.
yeah, one of the great things is that uh, there was a very, very vision that the council set in the 90s, was to actually bring a university, 4-year university, to the city of Chula Vista. And I was happy when I got on the council to be passed the baton to see how we could do that. Uh, while I was on the planning commission, while I was on the city council, we were able to acquire 383 acres of land for the university. And we are now looking to be able to attract colleges and universities to be able to move there. One great thing is that we were able to have San Diego State uh, start negotiations. Again, it hasn't been completely agreed to or settled yet. And just in all disclosure, I'm an Aztec, so I went to San Diego State.
So you're not biased, are you?
Yeah, so I am very proud that we are working with San Diego State to be able to bring their Department of Cinematography to
Yes.
the city of Chula Vista. We were able to get funding, and I want to thank Assembly Member Alvarez for
Yes.
helping
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
help funding the library. And in that library, the plan is to be able to uh, help house the Department of Cinematography for San Diego State. We still have some hurdles we need to get over, but at least we are moving forward. And I think if we can do that, it will really help energize our efforts to bring a university to the city of Chula Vista. Um, there's a lot of challenges that we face. But I think when they see how successful opening a university or departments of a university in the city of Chula Vista, I think that people are going to want to continue to invest in it.
I think that building's going to be the launching pad for a lot more construction. And I know that Chula Vista is constantly being looked at as opportunities. I know that Sorrento Valley is looking into Chula Vista now because they're out of space, and we've got the space and we've got the workforce, and we want to keep that workforce within the city limits. You used to talk a lot about the percentage of people that leave Chula Vista, and I always agreed with you that we need to try to find a way to keep them in Chula Vista. And of all the 18 cities in San Diego County, only 4, in an article I read last year, had any measurable amount of developable land left, and Chula Vista had by far more than anybody else. I am big on managed growth. I agree that managed growth is good, but the way the city in their charter and in their master plan and what they're doing out in that area, I think is very well thought of. I think it's presents great opportunity. I'm kind of glad that Amazon didn't come here because it gives us that property to do better things with. And I'm excited to see just how far we go after this library cinematography building gets put in place and who comes to play.
Yeah, and just to add on that, uh, Chula Vista is now going to get to the next level. Uh, I was very fortunate to be on the teams in the early 2000s and the early 90s, and as a council member to be able to approve and plan most of the new communities, East Lake, Otay Ranch, Rolling Hills Ranch, Rancho Del Rey. Uh, these are incredibly award-winning communities. For 10 years in a row, East Lake was the best new home community in San Diego County. That's an incredible feat
Yeah.
that happened. So we've done a great job on planning, making sure that each of the neighborhoods have good infrastructure. They have the parks, they have the roads, they have the schools. Now we're going to the next level. And the next level is not only being able to live in quality neighborhoods in the city of Chula Vista, but also to be able to work in quality companies in Chula Vista. And the Millennia Project and the Innovation District, I think, are a big part of making sure that we are able to not just bring people here to live, but also to have quality jobs for them to go to. And I think, again, we are going to have a company or two who are going to be the early adopters that when they open up their companies, they're going to be able to find out this is a great, affordable place to run a company and that they have a great pool of qualified applicants who will be willing to probably even work a little less for less money instead of having to drive to Sorrento Valley because they're so close to home. And that's the next phase that the city of Chula Vista is going to be going to, is making sure you not only can live in Chula Vista, not only that you can play in Chula Vista, but also that you can work and have uh, quality jobs in the city of Chula Vista.
So a lot of you know that I was given the nickname by the previous mayor, Mr. Positive. But I'm going to play devil's advocate for a second here because I know what some of you are thinking. This sounds great. We got the Bayfront and everything, west of the 805 and the 5 is going to get revitalized. And sometimes people will throw the word gentrification out there, which is a concern. And we are a diverse city. We're a city that really embraces everybody. So one of the things that people are starting to talk about that I'm hearing is, well, great, but what about the hardworking blue collar people who are renting right now in certain areas, who want to buy homes, but when you look at the average home price in Chula Vista, though it's not as high as other areas, it's up there. It's in the high 500s. But I do remember conversations about new developments and affordable housing. So I want people to understand that the city does understand this, and they do understand that we're not trying to become some top tier city of housing where only the rich can afford. There's a compassionate side to city council, and they've been grappling with this for years, making sure that new developments have a certain percentage of affordable housing. Is that correct?
Yes, and just to give you a little bit about my background, um, I grew up under a single mom. She worked almost 30 years at Roar Industries, and working class, you know, family. And it was interesting because I remember sometimes when my friends their parents would become a little more wealthy, they'd leave Chula Vista and, believe it or not, go to Bonita or another place. Uh, but what we've done in the city of Chula Vista, when we've planned the new communities, my philosophy has been we need to be able to have communities where we have housing for people who work in the mailroom all the way through the boardroom. And we need to have that quality and diversity of a housing mix, because there's many times, me included, as when I got married and my wife and I started having children, we needed to have a bigger place. So instead of going somewhere else, we were able to stay in the city of Chula Vista and be able to just buy a little bigger place to accommodate our family. So we are very dedicated to making sure that we can have quality, affordable uh, housing in the city of Chula Vista. The additional thing that I've been really, really pushing is that what we call it the missing middle. Uh, when my mom was a single mom, she was still able to afford her mortgage. When I got out of college, I was still able to buy a condo and be able to do it on my salary. Was able to then continue to move forward. Now my children, my son, who has a great job, who has great credit, who's built up a good down payment, it's hard for him to even get into a one bedroom condo. And we need people who are wanting to live and own in Chula Vista to be able to do that.
Now,
And
isn't Sunbow part of that solution in a sense?
yeah, and let me exactly. So one of my great resolution or initiatives, and this is what I'm about. I want to make sure that we can find solutions. I know today there's a lot of talk about doing things, but I actually want to get things done. It's just like the Bayfront. It's been going on for over 60 years. We was very fortunate to get back on the council, and now finally, after since 2003, all that planning, all that bureaucracy, we're able to actually now have it under construction. But with the Sunbow project, I work very closely with Sunbow, and instead of putting apartments, instead of putting rentals, we were able to change the zoning to be housing and make sure that they were only going to build starter homes ownership, 200 or 718 units of new housing, so that somebody who is starting out can actually afford to live in Chula Vista, somebody who is on our police department, who is a teacher here, who is a nurse in the city of Chula Vista, that they can actually not just work here, but they can own in the city.
And what's
And
the
that,
projected starting price of that property? I heard it was pretty affordable, but do you have a number?
yes, and then this always I always have to pinch myself, because I remember when I was looking to buy a place, and at least when we approved it, it was the high 300,000s.
Okay.
That used to be an out of control price years ago. Now it's amazing that that would even be considered affordable. But what people can do, especially if they work in the city of Chula Vista, is be able to buy something there and be able to build wealth for their generation in that equity and get in on that ownership opportunity.
So what's the projected opening date for, let's say, people to look at models for that? And that's Sunbow 3, right?
Yes, it's
It's off of Olympic Parkway, just east of Brandywine.
correct. And we're hoping later this year with construction and everything. You never know, but we're hopeful that you'll be able to see something later this year.
Well, thank you for being a part. That's really important, because, again, I have adult children. One lives in this area, and it's the constant conversation we have is, Daddy, how am I going to be able to afford to live in this area? And so hats off to you and the other city council and the previous mayor who put this together, who because I was at some of the city council meetings when they're talking about it, and it was definitely a directive coming from the dais that this is what has to be. This is what the city's going to do in order for them to rezone. The developer had to have skin in the game as well as making sure that single family, are they detached?
They are attached.
Okay.
So again,
Like townhomes?
yes, yeah,
It's still great. My first place was a townhome. Your first place was a condo. It's a good starter for
Yeah.
even at 400,000, say it ends up there. Let's be honest. That's a great win for the city and for the city citizens.
yeah, and again, mine was first place was a townhome, and by being able to buy that, I was able to build up that equity to then, when I got married, to actually buy a single family home, and that's what you want to do. You want to be able to get people started in building generational wealth. Then you can have more commitment and investment in the community because you own in the community, and that your children are going to grow up in that community, just like I did, as being from Chula Vista.
Right.
Um, and again, it was a very challenging item. It was not supported by the Planning Commission. It was not a unanimous vote at the City Council, but we went ahead and we were committed to bring affordable home ownership to the city. And I was glad that we were able to get enough votes on the City Council to push that through. And I know that there'll be at least 718 families that will be appreciative of owning in the city of Chula Vista in the future.
Excellent. And I hope there's more of those projects. I know just on the other side of that area, there's a Skya, and I know that those homes are very nicely built, and they're still within the city's catchment. And there's a multitude of them. I see single family detached. I see townhomes. I see high density apartments like in Millennia. But hopefully, we'll find a way to at least make home ownership at some level affordable in Chula Vista. But unfortunately, there are some people in our town who don't have a home, and it's a prevailing challenge. And I remember having a conversation with someone from San Diego Health and Human Services, and I really feel for the people who are living on the streets. And some of them are there by their own design. There's some of them just people who want to be homeless because either they can't or don't want to pay rent. And that's a small percentage. And there's a percentage of those who are suffering from a mental illness whose mind just doesn't tell them that help is for them. And that hits close to home for me because I had a sister that was homeless, and you just could not reason with people like that sometimes. But then we have a new, not new, but I think a new definition for a homeless. And I really like the way they use this word, and it popped up about 3 years ago, known as unsheltered. And these are really people who hit hard times, unemployed, evicted, escaping domestic violence, many of those things. And they just find themselves in need. And I know that the Chula Vista Police Department has a hot team, homeless outreach team, that does a really good job identifying those people and getting them into resources. There's a lot of great community organizations like Community Through Hope who help service that. But there's still that percentage of homeless people who like to just defy rules. How's the city dealing with that? How are they helping navigate just the overt, I want to drink and do drugs in the park community? And how are we helping to create, and we're going to go back to what you did at that one park, to create a safe place for our families, a safe place for those who need a place for the kids to play and not it be a campground?
Well, again, homeless issue is become a major issue, not just for the city of Chula Vista, not just for San Diego County, but for all of California. And what we're doing is we're putting initiatives in place to be able to help homeless get off the street. I was part of the city council that took the leadership to create the homeless outreach team in 2016. We've been very successful at that. It's been a collaboration between our nonprofits that we work with. We have several nonprofits, and then also our police department, because we want to make sure that the social workers engage. They go out with our police go out with the social workers. They engage the homeless. But if there is something that is illegal or something that they're doing wrong, we have our police officer there to protect them or to again hold the individuals accountable if they are doing something majorly illegal.
Right.
And one of the interesting stories is that there was a unsheltered person in East Lake. She would sleep on the bench of the bus station, and I would get at least a couple emails or phone calls saying, "What are you doing about this homeless person?" Uh, but the hot team would go out there at least once a week, engage her, and see how we could get her help. Uh, and again, I would consistently get emails and complaints and phone calls, and I tell them, "Hey, we're working on it. The hot team is engaging her. We're hoping that she will accept help at some point in time. She's not a criminal. She's not, doing drugs. She's not doing anything that is illegal, but she is homeless."
Right.
And the great thing is, after several months of the hot team engaging her, we were actually able to get her off the street and into a facility to be able to help her with wraparound services. And so it was a great thing. The funny thing was, though, after we did get her some help, then I started receiving calls and emails saying, "Hey, what happened to Myrna?" I went to bring some food to her and she was gone and I haven't seen her, And so, it shows that people in the city care about what's happening in their community and individuals. When somebody goes missing, they want to know what happened. And so that was a success story of our hot team and just homeless outreach team. And I just really appreciate what they've done. We're now going to the next step of putting a bridge shelter in the city. It's going to be in Southwest Chula Vista. And what it's going to do is be able to give our officers an ability to take people out of our parks and off the streets and allow them to be housed, but also to be held accountable with wraparound services, to be able, if they're drug or alcohol addicted, to be able to give them help that way. If they're having mental issues, being able to have people look at them and give them help. And that was one of the challenges with Harborside Park. The Ninth Circuit Court said that if you as a city did not have a homeless shelter, you could not allow taking people out of the park if they're trying to sleep there. Well, in the future, we're going to have a homeless shelter. And so we're going to be able to make sure that people are not in our parks and that our parks are being safe and that they will, be protected. So when families who go to these parks, they will feel safe to be able to be there with their children.
Good. Good. And that's something that's right now being presented through city council. It's being worked out. Is that something that's in the near future that we will hear about being voted on? Is there a timeline?
So the great thing is it's already been voted on. It's already under construction because of some supply chain issues on electrical. They're waiting on some equipment on that. So we're going to be opening it within the year.
Okay.
But we're very, very fortunate that it is underway, and we're going to have a big ribbon cutting when it does, because I think this is going to help us get unsheltered people that are in the city off the streets and get them into a situation where they can get back on their feet.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, no city is perfect. Every city has its challenges, but I've always been very impressed about how our city, both city government and public safety, are not afraid to tackle things head on. One of the things I just wanted to kind of use just a minute is I want to give a little shout out to our Chula Vista Fire Department. If you read our hometown newsprint, you may have seen February's issue. We discuss about how a fire department staff member, Marlon King, aggressively pursued grant money through FEMA to clear a lot of shrubs in 6 canyons in Chula Vista, and to make it a safer place to create fire breaks. But in addition to that, some of those canyon areas were also homeless encampments. I know that near me, there was a couple homeless people living in the canyon. So this kind of also helps move things along. It creates a safety barrier for the homes, but it also kind of exposes open areas to where if you are looking to live in canyons, it's not that easy anymore, because you stand out and you're easier to identify. But most importantly, it's a fire safety, and kudos to that. So that's kind of also ties in a little bit with the homelessness and unsheltered. So what else is new on the front? We got about 2 more minutes here, but you want to talk a little bit about your staff. You want to let people know, hey, if they need to reach out to you, they can reach out to you directly, but they're also going to interact with some of your staff. So you want a chance to talk a little bit about your staff?
Well, we've got a great staff, and our staff's number one priority is constituent services. So if you have something big or something small, please contact my office. I've got a couple great staff members, Cynthia, Amanda, who was with me as a council aide, as a councilman, and John Hoy, my new chief of staff. So we've got a great team, and we're customer service oriented. We want to make sure that if you have a tree that needs to get trimmed or there's a pothole that needs to be filled, we are going to do our best to be able to make that happen. One thing I did want to talk about, I know we're talking about all these great big projects of the Bayfront, Gaylord, of the San Diego State, the Innovation District, SDSU coming, cinematography, but there are a couple projects that I think are really cool. And one of them is one that I think my kids are really excited about. We're bringing a Raising Cane's to the Chula Vista Shopping Center. And it's funny because I never even knew about Raising Cane's. And I asked my son, hey, where are you going out tonight? He goes, oh, we're going out to Santee to go to Raising Cane's. And I'm like, okay, what is that? And he said, oh, it's this great restaurant and everything. And so I thought, okay, well, if you're going to drive all the way to Santee from Chula Vista to go to a restaurant, it must be something good. We were able to attract Raising Cane's. And so this is one of the few ribbon cuttings that I actually think my kids are actually going to go to because
in Chula Vista Mall?
Yep.
Is
Chula Vista Center?
So where is it going to be at in the center? Is it going to be near Wild Buffaloes and BJ's, or is it going to be a standalone out someplace else?
It's going to be standalone. If you go by it on H Street right now, it's actually under construction.
Okay.
And my son every couple of days sends me a picture and said, Dad, it's almost there. And then, so yeah, Raising Cane's. The other thing is we're getting another In-N-Out burger on Main Street. So a lot of these,
you never have too many In-N-Out burgers.
Well, and that's the other thing. I mean, if you've gone out to sort of the Widening Walk, Otay Ranch area, and I've spent many a nights with my kids sitting in that drive-through
long line, yeah,
to be able to get a burger for my kids. And obviously, it shows you how popular they are because they usually have a long line. But we're bringing another In-N-Out burger to the city of Chula Vista, which is another great project. And so there's all these great projects that we're being able to do, and many parks are going to be coming online. We're looking at being able to create at Hilltop Park a dog park within there. We're looking at being able to bring more pickleball. Did I say that? Pickleball. Mm-hmm. Pickleball is one of the fastest growing sports.
I'm a tennis player, so
you should try pickleball. It is an incredibly fun, cool sport, and we're looking to be able to at McKenzie Creek Park.
Yeah, that's always busy.
To be able to add some additional pickleball courts there. It really on the east side has become the hub of pickleball. Yeah. And I just can't thank the pickleball players there enough because they have done such a great job at being good partners in helping us create those courts there and being able to work with the city in a collaborative way to be able to get to the next level. And It's just an amazing thing. We've already given them multiple awards because they're good people, but we're going to get some more courts there, and I think that'll continue to help alleviate some of the demand. But pickleball right now has a huge demand and is a very popular sport.
Perfect. Well, we're just about out of time, but this will not be the last time we talk with the mayor, because I have a whole bunch of other topics next time. So we'll circle back in maybe a couple of months or later on this year and have him back again. And I'm going to pose some more interesting questions. But again, this broadcast takes place thanks to CopyLink, celebrating 30 years as your trusted source of office technology and managed service. I just can't tell you how much I appreciate and adore, Kevin and Kimberly Marshall. And also, just want to remind you, you've been getting multiple flyers and inserts, and you've seen it in our hometown newsprint, but the city of Chula Vista is spearheading an incredible food waste program known as Feed the Green. Please learn more about that. It's really good for the environment. It's good for our city. And it's a good way to capture, and repurpose and compost and, eliminate what we put in the landfill, because, landfills aren't they're not without a life. So help us continue the life of our landfill by learning more about Feed the Green and the Chula Vista Food and Waste Program. And then it's also been sponsored by Minnie Rezlowski, 24K International Realty. She's an excellent person. I personally vouch for it because she's my realtor and she's also my broker. So that's it for today, episode number 8 with our wonderful newly elected mayor, John McCann. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time.
Thank you very much.